beginning there was only a few people who didn't like it, but also a few people liked it. And then now that I have like, whatever, multiple thousand fans, there's still a bunch of people, like thousands of people also, who like don't like my music. So that's like part of it. I'm playing a game with my mom and suddenly get this text on my WhatsApp, and I was just like, what the hell? How did that happen? No idea how it happened. Uh, I guess and that's the cool thing about, social media and the internet, that you can truly reach out to anybody.
Hi, my name is Monica. I'm a senior journalist at Bollywood Hungama, and today we are going to talk to one of the finest artists that we've seen in independent music, Prateek Kuhad. So let's dive in. So I wanted to know, it's like, what's the feeling like, basically, when you're creating an EP? What is the story like? So I'm sure you all make a lot of songs all together, but how do you choose that you want these particular songs in your EP?
Yeah, it's pretty. It's like a process. You start with uh picking a song that you really like. Usually, like I usually start with one or two songs that I really like a lot, that I really want to put out, and then I start going through, everything I've written over the past few years, and picking stuff that works with that. And I mean, I'll make lists of songs and listen to them together, and remind myself of where I was when I wrote them in life, where I was, and as in, like, emotionally where I was, or mentally where I was, and dig deeper into the lyrics, my own lyrics, and kind of, figure out that what they really mean. And it's just thinking about all these things, and then you use all those factors and come up with usually a bunch of songs that work well together, that just feel like they're kind of connected to each other, that work well together as a unit.
Yeah.
uh, and then I start searching for the common thread. Once I have something that, like, when I have a few set of songs which feel like good together, then I start searching for a common thread. And in this case, it was, you know Shehron ke Raaz. The song felt like a common thread. Like, it felt like a song that uh, talks about love, and uh, but in a really hopeful and a joyful way, in a really comforting way. And I felt like all the songs in the EP were doing that as well. So it just, it came together.
Right. My follow-up question was that only. What was the inspiration behind this EP? Because it kind of looks like post heartbreak kind of a story. So basically, maybe it's sort of like maybe you're feeling the young love, or maybe new love kind of, or like immersive kind of story. So tell me about it. What was when you're writing the song? What is the inspiration behind it?
So different. They were all written at different points in my life, and like Khone Do was written many years ago. Actually, I think almost like 4 or 5 years ago, and it just kind of sat around for a bit, and then I started playing it live, and then I'd been wanting to put it out for a long time, but it felt right on this record. Like, again, Khone Do is really about being completely immersed and lost in, your love and with your lover, and that 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 didn't fit on Razi when I was putting it out, which was many years ago. And uh, it just fit this time. And Shehron Ke Raaz was written more recently. Tere Hi Hum was just written last year, and that's kind of the song that spurred the idea for the EP. That was the most recent song, and that was what wanted me. Like, I started with that, like, I really wanted to put out Tere Hi Hum, and then I started searching for other songs that worked well with it. And Shehron Ke Raaz came up, and Khone Do came up, and they felt good together, and I found a common thread.
Right. I feel you have a very unique sound in your music. Sonically, it's quite different from what I hear in general. Independent music obviously is very different from what we mainstream music is considered in India. But you have a very different sound. When did you find your this is going to be your sound? You have a very unique voice. So when did you I'm sure artists experiment a lot before they find their perfect sound, maybe, or every EP is very different. But you have a very unique sound. So, how did you find that?
I feel like I'm still finding that sound really. I still haven't actually found it. But at the same time, I'm also not really trying to find a sound in
Mm.
that sense, in a way. Like, I'm just, every time I'm making a record, I'm just trying to make stuff that I like. Really, if I was to really simplify it, it really is just that. And what I like is just based on years of everything that I've heard, and then and it's kind of like you want to do something you like, but you also want to push the boundaries a little bit. So when I'm experimenting in the studio and experimenting with my songwriting, like I'll push myself to get out of my comfort zone and do something new, because that's what makes the process exciting and fun. And then, like, sometimes you go too far and, back up and dial yourself back and uh, refine that stuff, and then just get to a point where you really like it. So that's where the uniqueness comes in, I think, like from that process where you really push yourself and start doing crazy things. So a lot of the stuff that the more weirder stuff that we do in the studio would never come out, because I feel like it's just gone too far sometimes. Sometimes it's just too crazy, and then you don't put it out, and then you dial it back and make it a little
Mm.
more, simpler in a way. And so you end up in a middle ground somewhere, where it's not completely run of the mill, but it's not completely like crazy either.
Right. There's like thousands and thousands of people that resonate with your music. I think particularly in the last 1 year or so, I think I don't know what it is. Is it the pandemic effect, or is it too many heartbreaks are happening, or too many people are falling in love? But I don't know what it is. What people just find solace in your music. Is it overwhelming? Does it pressurize you to put out like all always refined music?
Yeah, I mean it is. But I try not to think about it too much, because there's no point. I mean,
Mm.
I'm just trying to be better than what I was yesterday, I guess. I mean, that's really the goal. I'm just trying to be better than what I did before. But that's not because but that's my own internal standards eventually, Ultimately, it's like whatever I put out, there's a certain number of people who really like it, and there's a certain number of people who don't like it. That's just always been the case. And the more popular I'm becoming, it's just, both those numbers are rising. Like in the beginning, there was only a few people who didn't like it, but also a few people who liked it. And then now that I have, like, whatever, multiple thousand fans, there's still a bunch of people, like thousands of people also, who like don't like my music. So that's like part of it. And if I started and it does affect you, it gets to you sometimes, for sure. Like there's definitely days where I feel like shit, I hope the next thing I put out is as amazing as, whatever that did really well before. And but I can't really control that, so I just try to be, you know I just try to have fun, actually, more than anything else. First and foremost, I just try to have fun and have a good, because I'm like, I started doing this because I love doing this, and that's still the most important thing for me. I want to do this really, really well, but at the same time, where it makes me feel satisfied, and where I'm able to sleep at night knowing that I did good on myself, basically. And then beyond, and I feel like if I do that, it's probably going to be good, because I have pretty high standards. So I'm gonna like
Right, right,
push
right.
myself and make sure it's good.
When did you start to realize that your music was reaching out to the wider audience, especially, and what was that one record or one single that probably reached out the most? Then you realized that now, like now, the audience is increasing.
I think definitely Cold Mess, and that too after the music video came out. When I put out the EP, it definitely like did very well. It did really well from where I was, in terms of I was known in the indie music
Yeah.
circles in India, even before I put out a
Mm.
Cold Mess, but it was still a pretty small audience. Even within that, when I put out Cold Mess, I feel like everybody suddenly knew me in the indie scene, at least, and it started to like kind of, but then when the music video came out, that did really, really well. And that definitely like inched me closer to what I guess mainstream would be, or just a much larger audience. And then I think we after on the back of that, we were able to do a lot of tours. and a lot of really big shows, and that made a lot of noise, and just more fans in like different cities started happening. So I think definitely Cold Mess was one of the turning points, like the whole EP. And then the next big thing was like Kasoor. Kasoor kind of just took that to a whole different level. I think that again, the song and the video both did like really well and just reached a whole bunch of people. I mean, I think we were like for a bit that song was number one on multiple, like on Spotify and on Apple Music and everything, you know, ahead of like a bunch of Bollywood songs and stuff, which is pretty unprecedented and crazy considering it was a completely independent release. Like, you know, I signed with a label soon after that, but at that point I was completely independent. Like we just did all of that ourselves, you know, like just so that was pretty crazy.
Do you get writer's block, and how do you overcome that?
I don't you can't overcome writer's block. I feel like you just have to wait. I've definitely gotten I don't know if it's just it's like you have creatively uh you have creative highs and creative lows, you know. Really it's just that. And it's not like writer's block, like I just not being able to write, but I'll write much lesser, like, and versus when I'm feeling really creative and I'm very productive, I'll write, you know, 20 songs a month. Like I've had like months in my life where I've just written 20 songs in the month, and really great, like good 20 songs, not like 20 songs I gave up on halfway, like 20 finished songs. And versus like if I'm like creatively not feeling great, like 6 months will pass and I probably would have attempted 50 songs but completed only 2, you know. So it's just you're always trying to write because it's just kind of part of my, you know, almost my daily routine now. It's just when I pick up a guitar I just end up writing something. But when I'm feeling creatively really awesome, I write a lot, and I write a lot of stuff that I like, then that is good. So I feel like creative lows happen, and that's kind of what a writer's block is. But you just have to wait it out, I guess, and wait for the next big thing and not freak out too much, and hopefully it'll go away.
Regarding this EP Shehron ke Raaz, I wanted to know how many guide versions do you make before you finalize the final version?
Like for every song, again, like 4 or 5, maybe 6. It just depends. For Shehron ke Raaz, it was just one. We came upon the idea pretty quickly, actually. So I had like something on my phone for a long time, and the day we got in my studio, we made like a demo, and it was great. And then just made the real song based on that. Khone though went through like many iterations, tried a bunch of different things over the years. I played it live in a completely different way. For a bunch of years, we played it with like drums. It was like it was much more energetic as a version. And Tere Hi Hum again was something we experimented with with it a bunch. Kasoor Acoustic was like pretty minimal production wise, so it didn't really have any demos. Actually, I just knew what I was gonna do in the studio.
Over the past year, a lot of so I've been speaking to a lot of artists. I speak to a lot of K-pop artists as well. A lot of people I have asked this over the past year. They've reflected on themselves, and I think they probably approach probably music in a different way. Maybe before 2020, it was a different process for them. Have you experienced that in the past year? Maybe because you had a lot of time to yourself and a lot of things you could reflect on, maybe take a seat back to understand what you're going through because everyone was isolated. So what was it like for you?
Yeah, like some of the things you said, I definitely think it forced me to pause and take a step back. And the moment you do that and you're not caught up with just life running by you really fast and just going with things, you are just almost forced to introspect and think about your priorities and your goals and what you want and what you've done and what you want to do. So I think it was good in that sense. And I'm lucky that, you know, uh I mean, uh, thank God, my time in the pandemic was fairly smooth. I mean, I was at home. It was frustrating, but I think it could have been so much worse. So I'm really lucky I had a smooth time. But creatively, it was not good for me at all. Actually, like I barely wrote anything. Uh, I just mostly worked on becoming better at skills. So I think I became a little better at the piano, at like producing a little bit, just other things. I cooked a lot, so I think I'm much better cook now after like an year and a half of cooking a lot. But I don't think like I wrote that much. I wrote a few songs, but not a ton. I was not that productive.
I was watching your interview recently, and one of the interviews, and someone asked you about the independent scene in India because it was quite hyped late 90s, early 2000, and it then died down, and now it's picked up in the last couple of years. Something that person said, and I wanted to iterate because of the fact that I think there's a very strong independent scene in the last, like probably 5 years or so.
Right.
It's very strong right now, and I think there's a larger audience that listens to independent music. Uh, uh, how do you when you started putting out music versus now? How do you think, is there a shift in the music scene in India in general, in the independent scene?
Not since when I started that much. Actually, I mean, it has grown, it has not been a big shift in terms of uh, creatively or how it was in that sense. Actually, I feel like it's pretty much when I got into it, it was just kind of picking up. In fact, in some ways, it was even bigger when I started out. Because when I started out, there were weekenders, which was this music festival happening all over the country in like 6 different cities, and every city had a pretty big thriving live music culture. There were lots of venues, and then they actually a bunch of them closed down. So I almost in that respect it was a lot bigger, but now there's a lot more artists, a lot more musicians, just a lot different kinds of artists. Like back then there were mostly just like rock bands, and I think I was like one of the few singer songwriters even doing something like this. Mostly there were just a lot of bands in the indie music scene back then. And now there's like the hip hop scene completely exploded. So that's independent. And there's a bunch of DJs and producers who are really 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 good. And there's a bunch of a lot of new rock bands and like other kinds of bands, and lots more singer songwriters that are really good. So it's just grown a lot in terms of musicians. In terms of an industry also, I think it's grown in other ways, like just because content's just blown up, so it's just more brands who need music for their like ads, and more films that need music for their like Netflix series. And just it's just the ecosystem overall has grown massively. So there's just so many more creative professionals, and that's what's really amazing about it. Yeah.
Last year also, you were one of the your song was one of in the list for in the Barack Obama's playlist basically, and that kind of was very interesting because there's like a lot of songs he had put out, and I think the one time I saw Prateek Kuhad, I'm like, how does he react at home, sitting at home? Mr. President Barack Obama has put his song in his playlist. How do you react to that?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I play like Chinese checkers with my mom. It's like this really obscure game. I don't know if
I know.
you know
I am
about
aware
it.
of this. I'm aware of this.
Not everybody knows about it. It's like a really obscure game, and like she loves playing it. So she plays it with my sister, and that's not what I was doing. I was just at home in my PJs, like playing a game with my mom, and suddenly get this text on my WhatsApp, and I was just like, what the hell? How did that happen? No idea how it happened. Uh, I guess and that's the cool thing about social media and the internet, that you can truly reach out to anybody. I mean, he probably like came across it on a playlist, or maybe I mean, who knows, right? So
I'm sure he came across the music video because artistically it's one of the finest music videos
it
I've
could be
seen.
that. Yeah. I know a lot of people I met in the US who are very like when I was traveling there after Coleman's, who are very unexpectedly my fans. Like it just this randomly, and they actually found me through the music video because it's so good. I mean, even
oh my god, it's I can't even say it's a music video. It's art. It's basically art. that's what it is.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
As a musician, when you're not making your own music, who are you listening to?
All kinds of, like, just all over the place, man. I mean, I listen to a lot of rap. I listen to singer-songwriters, folk music, old stuff, a lot of old stuff sometimes. Just whoever like recommends me stuff. I have no constant. My go-to artists are still my old favorites. like Elliott Smith and Bob Dylan, or like sometimes I'll listen to classic rock, very rarely, like Led Zeppelin or something. Or like singer-songwriters. Like I am and was I am a massive John Mayer fan, so I listen to it. Like his music is like comfort music to me. So there's like a lot of artists like that, but when it's new stuff, it's just there's so many all the time. Really, it just depends. I also have like phases that like I'll go through many months, sometimes almost not listening to music at all. Like I'll, I don't listen to music for a lot of time, like many weeks, months in a row. And then I'll feel like I haven't heard good music in a while, and I'll ask for recommendations and listen to albums. Yeah.
In the current lot of the Western music artists, or in general anywhere else, Spanish or anything, what are you? Do you happen to come across anybody that has caught your attention and you've been listening to them, or maybe have heard one or two songs of them?
Yeah. I actually like. I mean, if you wanna know about more lesser known artists, there's this like songwriter Eloise who's really really good. Lizzie McAlpine, Adam Melkor, who I've been listening to for a while. Love he's a phenomenal songwriter. I actually like worked with him a few weeks ago when I was in LA as well. Really really amazing guy as well. There's this band from Brooklyn. I think it's called. I think they're from Brooklyn. They called Big Thief. Again, phenomenal songwriting. A lot of like the music that I'd gravitate towards tends to be really like song driven and songwriting driven, because that's what I end up appreciating a lot. I mean, I like a lot of pop music as well. I really like Ariana Grande. I like a lot of hip hop, like Young Thug and Kanye West and um, Kendrick Lamar. I mean, so it's pretty all over the place.
Do you miss the online, like in-person concerts? I think
Oh
every
yeah,
artist thrives on stage so much. Do you miss that vibe?
it's really weird. I hated playing live. And then like when I started out, I used to hate playing live. Then I got okay with it eventually. And then 2019 we toured like crazy. Like I toured all over the US, all over India, uh, a lot of Europe and UK. I think we did like 70 or 80 shows that year. And which is insane, right? Like it's like, and it was in spurts. So I got like 2-3 months off in the middle at one point, but it was just like 3 months of touring and then a week off and then like 2 months of touring and then like 1 month, it's just back to back. And by the end of it, I was so exhausted. I kept telling my managers that I just want a break now. I can't tour anymore. I'm so done. And then I just got the break that I wanted. Like it was, but it's just like instead of like a few months, it ended up being 18 months. And now I'm really missing it. Now I'm pretty excited to get back on the road. I mean, hopefully, uh, fingers crossed, things start normalizing soon, and hopefully by next year we can start doing shows again. And I'm excited to get back on the road, start playing real shows again. And I'm sure people are like dying to go and like
Oh,
listen.
yeah. Are you someone who collects albums, physical albums?
I collect. I don't collect. I listen to like vinyls.
Oh,
I have
okay,
a
okay.
vinyl player at home, and so yeah, I do buy vinyls. I don't buy CDs anymore, to be honest. But I every time I find like a good LP, especially like classic records, like my favorites that I really like, I like to buy them.
What are some other goals you set this year? Probably, like, is there some goal or probably next year that something that you want to do?
This year, I mean, we're just trying to. I'm working on on new music. I'm actually in a studio right now. I'm living in a studio in Seattle. I've been here the past few weeks and just recording a bunch of new stuff. And hopefully that comes out soon. I don't want to say when because I don't want to have the pressure of having to put it out. But it's gonna be soon.
Right, right. Thank you so much. Lovely talking to you, Prateek. I hope I asked you all the questions. Was there something I did not ask, but you would like to talk
No,
about?
that was great. That was great, Monica. Thank you. Had
Thank
a
you
really
so
good
much.
chat. I hope you did too.
I obviously found like certain musicians. Obviously, I listen to Sufjan Stevens a lot. So I think I somehow found you very similar to that kind of music, and I just
He's
put
amazing.
everything. Oh my god, I don't know what it is, but I think you both somehow just make me a sob mess. so so it's one of those
Carrie,
things.
Carrie and Lowell is like probably one of the best albums to have come out in the past like 20 years. I think it's just the best, and especially from a songwriter's perspective, like songwriting wise, it's just phenomenal. It's exceptionally well written.
I absolutely agree.
So you have really good taste.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you want to say any message or something to your fans who've listened to Shehron Ke Raaz and are loving it? Do you want to say something to them?
I mean, I just want them to have a good time with it, you know. Just listen to the songs, I guess, you know, like I feel like with my music, it's a lot of time. With a lot of songs, especially, it takes some time to grow on you. And I like to put in little details and stuff that you will probably only notice after a few listens.
Yeah.
So yeah, give it a shot, you know.
Yeah. On that note, thank you very much. It was lovely talking to you on a Friday
Yeah,
morning and obviously Thursday night for you, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah. All the very best. I'm looking
Thank
forward to
you.
everything you put
Thanks a
out.
lot.
All the very best. Bye bye. See
Thank
ya.
you. Thank you. See ya.